Well, today's a very special episode of Culturally Appropriate. I'm your host, Jerod Hollyfield, and we are excited to be celebrating Halloween with you all on this very special Tuesday show. We've got a packed afternoon for you. First, we are going to hear from Patrick Warner, who is a haunted house entrepreneur and runs Devil's Dungeon in Nashville. Next, we're going to talk to moms from the sound collective Scumtapes. And lastly, our friend of the show, J. Curtis Miller, will be here in a pre-recorded interview talking about his new movie, Jack, which is available for really the next 12 hours since the show is live. It's a Halloween release. So I'm excited to get started. For those of you that are planning on staying in tonight, though, if you looked at the pamphleteer over the weekend, I republished an article that I wrote 2 years ago called The Halloween 10. And these are 10 of my favorite sort of under the radar horror movies. If you don't want to watch the original Halloween or Friday the 13th or whatever else is playing tonight. So we've got movies on here like Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which is one of my all-time favorites. We also have Andy Warhol's Blood for Dracula, Jennifer's Body, which I wrote about in the pamphleteer a little bit earlier this year, Brian Usna's Society. So check the list out if you're interested in finding some counter-programming to the typical movies you would watch on Halloween. Most of these are available for streaming, and you can access the article on the pamphleteer's website. So with that, our first guest is Patrick Warner, who runs Devil's Dungeon in Nashville. Hey, Patrick, how are you?
Good, bud. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And the big question on my mind, especially at this time of the year, is how do people get started in the haunted house industry? Like, what led you to this career path?
So there's many different ways to get started. I actually was almost born into it. At 4 years old, my parents started Death Row, which was in an old prison in Nashville. I grew up there. In 2000, we purchased the property where Devil's Dungeon sits, started that haunted attraction. It's been going for 24 seasons now. With many changes made over the years, it is one of Nashville's longest running. We've been thriving over the years. Some years are better than others, but ultimately different friends who have gotten in the industry, they've bought out other haunted houses, or even just started one in their backyard that grew into a commercial location and took off from there. So there's lots of options. Many people think it's an easy venture that you can dump a little bit of capital into and make a lot of money, but there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes that everyone really thinks.
Yeah, and Nashville sort of garnered this reputation as one of the haunted house hubs in the United States. I think like on any given season, at least before COVID, and I think even after COVID, there are almost a dozen within the area. So what do you think it is about Nashville that makes haunted houses so appealing to people?
I think Nashville is a good middle point around the Southeast because we do have people traveling from states away. And also with the growth that Nashville's had over the last 10 years, that has drastically helped us and all the other haunts around the community keep growing and being able to put more money into it, more effects, more animations.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love going to these almost as much as I hate it. My wife loves to go with me because of my reactions. I get like very polite to all of the actors. She tells this story where like, a few years ago we were at Nashville Nightmare and Michael Myers came out and I told him to have a blessed day because I just got like so freaked out by the whole situation. So, for those people who haven't been to a haunted house, can you sort of describe the experience of going to one of these things?
The experience can vary for different individuals and different haunted houses as well. Our haunted house, we really try to push to the limits without being an adults only or a contact haunted house. We won't touch you. We ask that you don't touch us. You can find a variety of different sorts of props, sets, scenes. We try to keep the experience as immersive as possible. There's moving parts all throughout, lighting effects, sound effects. You might even get sprayed with a little bit of water from one of our props, just to really kind of hit all the senses and give you that sensory overload.
Yeah, and looking at your website, something that I really admired is the fact that you sort of referred to this as like a theatrical production.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, whenever you all in the off season, obviously, I know this isn't something that like in August, you're like, well, it's time to start planning. What is the process like of developing the new haunted house for each season? It's sort of preserving the tradition, but also giving the audience something new.
So our attraction does stay set up year round. We don't do any off season events. Once we finally get into the season, everything's rolling. We're getting customers through. Then we start making a checklist of what's working, what's not, maybe some scare points that we thought would be great for reactions from customers didn't do so well. So we're already planning during this season for what we're going to tear out this winter and start working on. Because we do work on it year round. It's not a full-time job, but weekends, evenings, and then as we get closer to Halloween, we may spend weeks at a time building new sets, painting. We purchase animations from different prop companies all over the country and just slowly implementing all that. So by September 1st, we try to pretty much be finished with everything and just making tweaks so we can open up the end of September. So it's really a year-round thing.
Gotcha. And you've been in the business for a long time, as you said. You were sort of born into it. There seems to be this noted rise in interest in Halloween that's happened over the past 10 years or so. And this is something I talk about with Jay in the segment that's going to be ending the program today. But what do you think it is that's kind of driving this? It's almost like Halloween is as big as Christmas now.
I was actually reading that over the past few years that as far as the billions spent across the country on Halloween versus Christmas, whether it be haunted houses, candy, costumes, whatever, they said it is starting to rival Christmas. I'm really not sure what it is. I think a lot of it is the theatrical standpoint on our end and just all the Halloween movies that are becoming more and more normal, whether it be just any sort of horror movie. People are really just starting to get into that aspect of wanting to get scared. I mean, I'm sure you as a young adult, you know, in high school or whatever, you might pop out around the corner and scare your friends. Everyone just loves to get that reaction from one another and then laugh at each other after the fact. And now I think it's becoming, thanks to social media and the technological advances in the industry, it's really been able to put the haunted houses across the country on the map and grow the industry as a whole.
Yeah, and whenever we're talking about special effects for these haunted houses, for those of our viewers who haven't actually been to one before, I mean, you get movie quality effects at these things. It's not just like a fly-by-night, somebody went to Spirit Halloween and got some fake blood and threw it on a couple of actors. How do you plan the different rooms? Because there has to be like a flow, right? Like you start out and it's almost like a narrative for each person. So
we do try to keep
attention to the story. How does that work?
We do try to keep a flow to it. Of course, we want to have as many different variety of sets and scenes as possible. So some transitions don't transition well. However, you may go through 3 or 4 scenes that all kind of link together to like a church and a graveyard. There's a segment where you go downstairs through I don't want to give too much away, but let's say a spider-infested ramp that'll bring you down to the more gory area where it could be anything from like a butcher, meat shop to medical scenes, like you're in an old insane asylum, hospital, then try to transition from that to like an outdoorsy while keeping the whole attraction indoors, and just kind of go back and forth to keep a flow that may break up here and there incorrectly, but ultimately somewhat of a storyline keeps the attraction moving in your head as you're going through. You're like, this all makes sense. It doesn't just jump from one extreme to the next.
Great. And so you mentioned feedback from audience members or from attendees. How do you all normally get that feedback, and how do you seek that feedback?
So I actually, of course, anyone loves a good review, but I like honest opinions. And as people are going through our gift shop, we have you exit directly through it. So if you need some refreshments or want to buy a t-shirt, I like to stand down there and talk to a lot of the customers, whether they come out screaming and smiling or come out frustrated that, you know, they took too long in the maze because they were stuck for 10 minutes and they got tired of the experience. I mean, you can't make everybody happy, but ultimately the more feedback I can get, whether it's positive or negative, it helps grow the attraction for years to come.
Right. And there has to be some kind of, I've noticed when I've gone through these things before that you only allow a certain amount of people in at one time. Like, how do you determine that magic number?
That all kind of depends on what point in the season we are. Earlier in the season, it's obviously much slower than closer to Halloween. When we open up in like middle to end of September, our nights are maybe a quarter of the attendance of what they will be in October. So we will try to have everyone go through as just with the group they came in, whether it's 2 people or 8 people, just where you can have your personal experience. But then once we get to the late October, Friday and Saturday nights, in order to keep the line from being a 2-hour wait, we're having to push in 2 or 3 groups together. So it may be 8 to 14 people, which if you get much higher than that, you start losing the scare factor because the person jumping out in any given scene may get the first half of the group or the middle part, but not everyone else will just see it coming or they missed it. And that's when we actually start to get some of our negative reviews for the year is later on. Yes, we're doing a lot more business. Everything's running smooth, but people are coming out saying it wasn't scary because they got in a big line going through there because one slow group will back up the whole attraction. You could have a great flow going, but as soon as that one group with a child or someone wanting to look at every set, then there's 30 people behind them that weren't part of their group, and now they see everything coming.
Yeah. And something I've always wanted to know about the haunted house industry is whenever like a group is going through, do the actors typically like pick when they're going to jump out by the clientele at the time, or is it more like every couple of minutes?
It's kind of both ways. As in each individual group is going through, you may see that one person that's kind of got their head ducked into the person in front of them shoulders, or they're kind of trying to get around stuff, and you can tell they're more scared. And some characters want to jump right on them because they know they're going to get the reaction they strive for. Whereas other characters may see that person and would rather get the leader who seems fearless to see if they can get that rise out of them, because there's that much more sense of accomplishment scaring the guy that doesn't seem like he's going to be scared.
Yeah, and that's what I've always found funny when going in groups. It's like there's always one or two people that it just keeps like piling on during the entire time, and it makes the experience better for everybody. Something I really appreciate about your haunted house in particular and about the haunted house industry in general is like the direct opposition to cell phone use. Like I feel like this is like the one form of group collective entertainment that really does crack down on cell phone use in a way that like even the theater doesn't. I was at TPAC the other day and people were on their cell phones. There was like one usher trying to get people off, and it was just sort of this uphill battle. So, why, especially your particular haunt, but in general, why do you think there is sort of this antipathy toward cell phones and mobile phone use in the haunted house industry?
There's a variety of reasons. One of the main ones for me is plenty of people who will have their cell phone out will end up dropping it somewhere, and I have to then go find it because, of course, if I lost my cell phone, I would want it found, which we do have plenty of literature out front stating the rules and regulations that we're not responsible for lost items and so on. But once people lose it, then you have to deal with that. Two, it can ruin the experience for other customers if they're trying to use their flashlight to see better. It may be exposing where a character's hiding, and then they just miss the point of a scare. Also, there's no like real big secrets in the industry, but we want you to be surprised when you come through. So if someone's going through taking a Snapchat video or posting it on YouTube, then they're kind of giving up all of our scares. Like, yes, you're not going to know where in the attraction that may happen, but ultimately you may end up going through, see that spot in the attraction, and know that, okay, there's an animation, a monster, a person, whatever's going to pop out here. And I just would really like to keep as much secret to it as possible until you actually get to come see it with your own eyes.
So what's the favorite scare, without spoiling anything tonight, that you've done in your entire career? Do you have like a particular one?
Oh, wow, that's difficult. So there would be two categories there. One would be, yes, a favorite scare, because I used to do a lot of acting as well. Even when I was running the attraction, I would have time to get in costume and get some really great scares, which I don't anymore. Or then there's also the way to look at it of what's my favorite scare I've ever seen any of my characters or my animations do. To really pinpoint one would be difficult. As far as maybe a favorite set or animation that everyone has usually gotten scared of, or we've gotten great compliments on, without giving too much away, we have a giant animatronic werewolf that will come out of a wall that you really would never even know it's there. And when you come around this particular corner, this massive wolf head comes out barking, growling, with the jaw trying to bite you, and it literally gets out almost to the point of touching you, which, like I said, we won't make contact with anyone, but in animation, kind of bumping into someone's different than human to human contact. People really like that scare. As far as myself, it's hard to really pinpoint one, because I've literally for 24 25 years, been, even as a child, was working in the haunted house scaring people. And I have many good memories that come to mind, but none of them could be like just a specific one that was so perfect.
So how many people does it take on average to run a haunted house of the size of the one that you do?
That can vary. We usually try to, I'd say character wise, as far as the monsters you'll see in there, we usually run about 35. And then there's 50 plus animations. We also, as far as makeup artists, security, my people in the sales booth, ushers, a total number of people on site working any given night is probably close to 50.
Wow. So, I mean, this is a big economic engine for, I mean, local industries, especially. How do you find, like, this has to be, I would assume, like a very sort of small world. I know, like, the film world in Nashville is very small. In the film world in general, like these different industries. Do you find that your competitors, like, is it a very collaborative industry as a whole, or is it sort of siloed off?
So in different markets, there's actually both extremes. Here in Nashville, I know all the other attraction owners. Some of us get along really well. We advertise for each other. We might have banners at the end of our haunted house saying, hey, go to this one next. Because most people aren't going to go to just one haunted house. They're going to go to multiple. So why not try to drive the business all around to it? If one does better, all of them do better. Other markets, I know it's like everyone wants to keep their tricks of the trade secret, their attendance number secret. They don't want to share customers. They want the people to come to them and them only, and come to them multiple times, which to me, that only hurts the industry because people aren't going to get the same excitement going through the same attraction twice. Whereas they'll go to multiple, get excitement from all of them, and then next year want to do them all over again. So it kind of just depends on the market. I just know, luckily, I'm fortunate to have a good market in Nashville that we all get along, share secrets, and even like as far as like advertising, spending money. Some people have their tricks and secrets of how they may boost their attendance and don't want anyone else to know about it. Whereas here, I may be talking to one of the other owners and be like, hey, we tried this, it worked really well. They try it and it works good for them. And they may give me some information back that something they did, and ultimately I'll get some more business. So both of us won at that point.
Great. And so I noticed the season's wrapping up, but you are still open tonight for those viewers who are looking for something to do. And then you're going to be open, I think, next Saturday as well. So if people are interested in visiting the haunted house, how do they go about that? Just go to the website?
The website would be good. That will give you more information on the times, the address, ticket prices, which you can purchase tickets at the door or on the website. Either one's fine with us. Tonight we are open from 7 to 10. And then Saturday night, it's a little bit different of experience. We're going to be open to 7 to 10 as well, I believe. But we're doing a blackout night, which is essentially, not to give too much away, we cut most of the lights out, just enough where you can see and still see all the animations, the sets, but make it a lot more dark experience to where you can't tell where the characters and monsters might be at any given time. And we give your group one glow stick just to light the path in front of you, to where, yes, the monsters can see you coming, but you can't see them. So they might appear right in front of your face and then disappear behind you and get the next person, and they'll never even see them coming. So like I said, unique experience, which we always do that after Halloween, because now that the season's over, we could kill the haunted house tonight, but why not give that one more night just for something totally unique for someone that may have already been, but wants to go again, and now they can get a fresh look on it, or lack thereof, in the dark.
Yeah, and I always hate that, like right after Halloween, that it's just like, all right, everything's Christmas now. We're just throwing all that stuff to the side. So I am loving now that this season in particular, it seems like, I guess because we're in the middle of the week, people are trying to squeeze that extra Halloween weekend out, which is kind of nice. So yeah, so Devil's Dungeon is open from 7 to 10 tonight, and also next Saturday, 7 to 10. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us today, and hope we get some people to come and check out your haunt.
Absolutely. I appreciate y'all's time.
Thanks again. Have a good one. All right. So our next guest is Moms from the Sound Collective, Scumtapes, and they're going to be doing a special release of a Halloween mixtape later tonight. So we wanted to have them on the show as well, just to give you a multitude of options for your entertainment needs this All Hallows Eve. So Moms, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
Doing great. So I understand that you are joining us from overseas today.
Yeah, I live in Belgium. So right now it's almost 7 p.m. over here. So it's getting kind of dark, as you can see. So yeah, but I have no problem with that. So it's no issue. I'm a night owl anyway.
I was trying to figure out my opening question during my show prep, and if I asked you to describe what Scumtapes is to someone who's not familiar with your work, how would you do that?
Whew, well, that's a question that we often ponder ourselves within Scumtapes, like the core people that run it. The best way to describe it, I think, for an easier access point is more of a net label slash merchandising slash collective of like a bunch of musicians and graphic effects artists coming together to just create whatever they want in their vision. And in this scenario, it's myself and our friends that we got involved with this, our vision and our idea of what a label or what a or what like a cool collective is. You know what I mean? It's sort of created out of a self-sufficiency and out of a need for it and a want for it as well. Because yeah, there's a lot of other like little things like this in the scene as well and the wider internet, but nothing that really like pinpointed what we liked. So we just made our own thing basically. The simplest way to put it is just say we're a conglomerate. We're just some weird international conglomerate of weirdos that just make weird stuff. Sorry, I don't know if swearing is allowed on this.
You can say what you want.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Just wanted to be sure. Yeah, we're just like a conglomeration of weird stuff, and all of our interests just combine into this mishmash of chaos that just is us. That's the best way to put it, I think.
Yeah. So when you say internationally, like, can you tell us where some of your collaborators are located?
Some of them are in Japan, Russia, Turkey, of course, a lot of it in Europe, UK, of course, and then the United States, Mexico, Canada. We're all over the place, basically. But some of the more prominent names are mostly United States based, but then a little bit of EU, and then the rest of the world, basically, outside of that as well. But we just go pick out people from all over the world that we think fit our image, or like we just get along with very well at the end of the day. So yeah, that's how that works.
So, I mean, are you all sort of like united by some of the same concerns and themes in your work, or?
Oh yeah, I mean that's the whole point of us coming together, right? Like, for example, a couple of my friends, like, we like horror movies, which is fitting for this time of year, of course. We like a lot of like B movies and like weird like shot on video VHS films, like the Polonia Brothers or John McBride or Tim Ritter. And we initially just started hanging out doing movie nights, but we also just all happened to make beats. You know what I mean? That's just kind of how we clashed together. And that interest initially started with just that interest in like B movies, but then it came out like, hey, we like the same things. We like the same sort of comics and artwork and musical genres, and we can also share ideas with one another in a way. And it just kind of snowballed from there. But the initial start was just like a couple of buddies sitting around, you know, drinking beers, watching like the worst possible movies you can imagine. And it just so happened that we all had like samplers, like SP404 samplers from Roland, and we just made beats and just sampled from weird movies as well. And that's just a bunch of friends hanging out, really. And it just came much more than that after time went on, you know?
So since this is our Halloween show,
Yes.
what is it about horror movies? I mean, even the bad ones, you know, even I don't even want to say bad because I think that's unfair. But what is it that really, you know, what draws you to them and what draws the collective to them?
Oh, well, for some, it's the scare factor. You know, there's a couple of movies like I'll give some examples, like Cure from 1997. It's a movie that gets to me in a way not because of its there's an intensity, but in a different way, right? It's a bit more slow creep, slow motion. It has a different feel. Whereas, like, you know, you have other more bigger slasher franchises that are more about the scares and the suddenness of it. But even then, we enjoy those. I think for everyone, it's a different aspect, but we're definitely a champion of like practical effects, dummy shots, good practical effects. We love that. So that's why we love ourselves like movies with weird little guys in them. We like movies like Critters or The Gate or whatever. That's sort of the films that we enjoy in that regard, but also because they have very impressive practical effects or funny practical effects. That's another one that gets us. But that's one of the bigger drawing points for us, I'd say. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that ruins horror to me like CGI. I watched Deadstream recently on Shudder.
I haven't seen that one yet.
which, I mean, blew me away because it's like a found footage, but the effects in this movie are all practical and just so much better than a lot of the stuff that's been coming out, you know, like the CGI blood that you'll see in a random
Oh,
Saw movie
yeah.
or, you know, Blumhouse movie. And I mean, there's just like, there's a level of craft, I feel like, to that kind of
Oh,
work.
I mean, for sure. I mean, if you look at like the masters of horror from the past, like your Tom Savini's and also like creature effects people that work for stuff like Gremlins, or even that doomed Dr. Moriarty movie, The Isle of Dr. Moreau or something. I don't know if you've ever seen that one specifically. That guy also, I forget his name. He's an Australian filmmaker. But that had amazing practical effects. So it sort of makes the movie watchable for me, even though script wise and the way that movie went, if you know the story behind it, it's a little bit different. But yeah, there's just craft and care. That's the thing that also works with Scumtapes, right? We care about sincerity and sort of humility, and that's sort of what draws us together. Is just like we're sincere about what we like, and it just so happens that a lot of horror, especially older horror, there's a very sincere meaning to it. There's a sincere feeling. It's supposed to tap into your fears or excitements or whatever. Even if it's just like it gets to you or it doesn't, it's still that the sincerity, humility, and also just like eye for detail that makes us just so inspired by it as well, in a sense, you know?
And that's something that you're gonna hear in the last segment with J. Curtis Miller. We're gonna be premiering his movie Jack. We had a discussion yesterday when we pre-recorded just about how the trend in horror now, and I think this is a Gen Z thing, that it's like it's irony, but it's not the kind of like great Gen X irony. It's just kind of like meta and ironic for the sake of being ironic. And there seems to be this
Yes.
lack of sincerity to a lot of, especially the mainstream stuff, the stuff that, you know, people are gravitating toward. You know, why do you think that is, as opposed to sort of your MO of bringing back the sincerity to some of this sort of analog aesthetic?
I think I agree with you that there is a big problem with horror, and I think it's also just because I would say initially corporate interest, yeah, will go to whatever sells, right? So let's say the last few years in horror, you see it in the low budget realm as well, like ghost movies, exorcism, movies that copy Midsommar and stuff like that. They just do it because it doesn't come from a place of like, this idea is interesting to me and I want to remix it into something that's my own. It more so comes from a place as well as like a bit of a corporatist slash capitalist sort of perspective of, oh yeah, an exorcism movie that's really popular now, let's make that and sell it. Blumhouse is, for example, kind of guilty of that in a way, even though they do bring out and distribute some really good movies, but they're also guilty of kind of perpetuating this trend of lazy, uninspired horror that's just kind of meant to build on the next thing and whatever, like franchise or theme and horror. And it's like, it's not that interesting to me. It's kind of whack, honestly, in that regard. It's also just like you notice that in the wider industry, not just horror. It's like this lack of like new ideas or going back to ideas that were previously not really considered mainstream or too palatable or marketable, because a lot of critique that people have nowadays, especially in my little circle of friends, is the idea of all these old horror movies, right? Like B films and stuff like that, that are forgotten to the ocean of time. That big companies, for example, like Blumhouse or Warner or whatever, could come in and be like, hey, let's try something with this old idea that didn't work back then for a lot of people, but let's see if it works now. There's just a lack of risk taking, I feel like, in this industry. And I feel like we should be going outside of the parameters a bit more. We shouldn't be too afraid of hurting sensibilities, I think, especially with horror, a genre that's supposed to be all about being terrifying and sort of like make you nervous or scared or tense, I think, you know?
Yeah. So speaking of sincerity and, you know, speaking of risk taking, can you talk about the mixtape release tonight and sort of how that materialized, but also sort of what viewers can expect whenever it drops on YouTube later today?
Yeah, so the Scumtapes Halloween event, this is our 4th annual event this year. We started in 2020 as a small compilation. The idea is just at the end of each year, which for us is Halloween, we try to get as much artists, especially music producers or musicians, together and be like, hey, you guys want to put something together for a compilation that we put out for free or pay what you want? Um, which is just kind of a present to the community, basically being like, hey, thank you. Here you go. Enjoy this. Listen to this. Show it with your friends. And usually with that, it's paired with a live event. So previous years we do live streams. This year is a bit different. We're doing a video premiere because this year we spent a lot of time working like on this little visual narrative throughout. It's still going to have live sets by DJs like Loot Canal, Kabuto, and Gigi Mothra. All amazing producers, but also great DJs. And then visualizers provided by myself, and then the entirety of the Scumtapes crew. So it's a little bit more focused in the sense of like a narrative and a structure, but it's still in essence the same as you can expect from if you've been to previous year's events. Music and great visuals and a lot of fun. It's going to be out of this world, I'll tell you that much. You know.
So how long does it take to put something like this together?
Oh, well, we start every year. That timeline gets longer and longer. Like the first year, it took us maybe a few weeks, like 3 weeks maybe, for the compilation, get all the artists on there, get everything made. This year, so far, 2.5 months of planning and prepping, because we reach out to the artists. Hey, you want to be on this tape? We have to wait for a response. Then we have to make promotional material. And then we also work on the visualizing material. The last couple days, let me tell you, I haven't been getting a lot of sleep because of it. I've just been like focusing on making all these visualizers and Blender and stuff and losing my mind over it. But I'm excited to show what the final product is, what everyone put together this year as well. But about 2 to 2.5 months of planning and a lot of last minute changes, like a week of just chaos and being at each other's throat for a moment. And then that's how that goes.
So how can we access this tonight? I mean, I already mentioned it's going to be on YouTube, but like, when does it
Yes.
drop? What's the time?
8 p.m. Eastern Seaboard time on our Bandcamp as well as our YouTube. You will find updates on our Instagram and our Twitter. The Twitter normally has been provided. So the Twitter is our most common one. So we'll update right on there. Hey, here's the link to the tape. Here's a link to our live event. We already put up the link preemptively as well. So people can just go click on it and pre-notify. And no problem. And even if they miss it, it's going to be around tomorrow because it's a video premiere. So you can watch it in crispy, high definition 1080p for your enjoyment.
Well, we will retweet or repost or whatever we're calling it these days a little bit later.
Yeah,
so.
whatever. The future's changing. Next thing, those words are going to be something completely different. Next thing, you're going to say X'd out or something crazy like that. That sounds like a gangland thing,
Elon Musk's. Yeah, that's.
Elon Musk
I look forward. I don't even want to go there. I don't think.
Yeah,
that's where we're headed more than likely. But so, moms, thank you so much for joining us today. And
thank you so much for having me.
8 o'clock tonight, the mixtape is dropping, and we'll be sure to be sending out an announcement as well. But follow their Twitter, and we'll have that information up on my personal Twitter page at Jerod Del Rey, and also at the Pamphleteer. So have a happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Big ups to the crew, everyone, and also see you later. It was nice talking to you, and hope to catch you soon as well.
Absolutely. Have a good one. All right. Our final guest of the day is Jay Curtis Miller, who has also not slept very much this Halloween. He has made a special Halloween short called Jack that premiered last night at midnight and will be going until 11:59 EST tonight. It's available for free on YouTube. We've retweeted it. I think we included it in this morning's newsletter as well. So Jay's been a big friend of the show. He's a good friend to our editor, Davis Hunt, as well. So Davis and I just jumped in last night. He was fresh from a film festival where his last short, MK Ultraviolence, was playing. So let's go ahead and check out this interview that Davis and I did with Jay last night. Well, we are back with our third guest today, and as you notice, my lighting is terrible because I want to make him look as good as possible. So Jay Curtis Miller is back with us, and Pamphleteer editor Davis Hahn is also with us. We're excited because we're recording this, pre-recording it, but Jay has released a new film project called Jack that will be available for the next 24 hours. It premiered last night at midnight, and it'll be available until 10:59 p.m. Central tonight or 11:59 Eastern. So, Jay, welcome back to the show. How have you been?
Good. How are you? My lighting's worse than yours, and it usually is. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, we were talking about LEDs on the way in, which I'm sure is every filmmaker's favorite form of lighting.
I'm sitting in my brand new living room. If you guys didn't notice that,
Yeah,
I just renovated the house.
I have a bunch of Funko Pop action figures on the way, so I'll have a background in a few weeks. So I'm just kidding.
Until then, it's the blur. So, all right. So Jay, what have you been up to since the last time we talked? I know you're getting ready to premiere at Nashville Film Festival with MK Ultra Violence, and you've had a couple festival runs since then. So, how things been going for you?
Pretty well. Really busy. I'm really tired. I can't wait until November 1st. But yeah, I've just been on the road up in Knoxville last weekend for the Knoxville Horror Film Festival. I won Best Regional Short Film and Best Audience Award Short Film there, so that was kind of cool. And I just got back from Columbus yesterday at the Nightmares Film Festival, which I think it's in its 8-year running. And that, I've got to be honest, compared to the 2 that I've been to this year, it's the best festival I've been to. And I feel like even if you're not into horror, you should go to that festival just to see how to run a festival. It's all in one location. It's all in downtown Columbus Art District area. I mean, I don't know Columbus too well, but it's like basically where like the art district begins and where like the people flock. And it's in one of the nicest independent theaters I've ever been in. The sound and picture quality is great. There's a great turnout, and people are just really like welcoming and like really friendly there. Like the festival director, I talked to him for like 30 minutes. Like the last day I was there, just because he wanted to talk and he was just walking around. So, and I didn't get that with the other festivals, and I can't say that I'll get that with others, but yeah, MK Ultra Violence had a pretty good turnout Saturday night at Nightmares, and just been talking with people that I met there. So, and then I made this short film in the middle of the month just because I wanted to. So I've been pretty busy.
Yeah. So let's talk about Jack. Like, what motivated you to make a film for Halloween? Is this like a thing you normally do, or?
It was something that I used to do. I did one in 2015 and 2016. And it's usually just kind of like a fun exercise to like write something really short and simple, but like base it on Halloween. It doesn't even have to be about Halloween. It just has to like take place on Halloween. And I wanted to get back to doing that and potentially do it yearly or like an annual thing. And I kind of want in the future to hopefully just compete and like do it with other people, kind of like similar to like the 48-hour film festival, but it's just like a Halloween short film thing. Anyway,
that's an awesome idea.
It really is. I mean, then
I think
what like a one-shot horror festival or something, or like a contest.
Just like it doesn't even have to be like a oneer, which we'll get into when I kind of talk about the film, but just like basically either at the end of September or the beginning of October, you have like a whole month to conceive and make just a little short film that takes place on Halloween. It could be comedy, could be horror, could be both. Just something that just like you can release on Halloween day and just kind of like see like what your friends have made and like, you know, get inspired. But it's just fun. Like I like movies that are set on holidays, and Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. I've done a few with Christmas to varying degrees of success. But Halloween just seems to be the nice little hot spot there. But as far as like the idea for this short, I wanted to make something a lot, it's not easier, but simpler than my last short film, MK Ultra Violence. I wanted to do something with 3 actors and 1 location on Halloween, and I wanted to do it in a one take or a seamless one take, because I've never really done that before. And a lot of my past short films have been very stagnant, just kind of locked off masters or close-ups. But I wanted to move the camera with this one. I wanted to play around with space, play around with location and lighting and moving actors and just seeing how the camera moves. And I just wanted to kind of flex my muscles there a little bit. And then I just had this idea of a pumpkin sitting on a windowsill with an open one, and somebody just gets inside and the power's off. And so that's kind of like how the story of this kind of gestated.
You want to watch the trailer? You want to turn on the trailer real fast?
Yeah, let's
Sure,
go ahead
no
and
say. Trailer? All right, we'll do the trailer. Give me a second. Let's see here. Was that jumpy for y'all?
Yeah, a little
It
bit.
was. We can I can send you a different one, or you can cut that around.
Well, here's you did some great work on the poster for the short too. I noticed.
Thank you.
Can you comment on like your casting of Robin Williams?
Well, we're living in the age of AI right now, and the SAG strike is still going on. And I thought, like, what kind of great American actor is our public conscious missing? And it was Robin Williams, and I just thought he would be the perfect character to play Jack. So, yeah.
So you exhumed his soul from the grave and cast him in the role. That's great. I think I actually can't wait to see a lot more of that. I'm looking forward to 50 years from now, like Ryan Gosling playing George Floyd in the biopic or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I guess Robin Williams being exhumed from the grave is definitely the Halloween theme here. I still can't believe Francis Ford Coppola directed that movie.
I don't think I've even seen a trailer, so I've never seen the movie.
Hold on, Coppola directed Jack?
Coppola directed. He needed the money at the time, so he did it.
Huh.
He did that, and then he did John Grisham's The Rainmaker, which is just sort of a weird late 90s exile of Francis Ford Coppola, but I guess that's not necessarily related to Halloween. But yeah, so the movie is not about the exhumed reanimated corpse of Robin Williams. Even though I greatly miss Robin Williams. I just watched Toys for the first time, like in September. I read about it in the streaming guide, but like best performance of Robin Williams, just no one acts like that anymore.
What about Flubber?
Yeah, Flubber was an all-time classic as well, clearly. But so the movie's not about Robin Williams. Do you want to give us a brief synopsis of the film?
Yeah, it's hard to kind of, because it's kind of short. It's only 7 minutes, so it's kind of hard to say anything without spoiling. But the basic premise is Linda and Terry are alone in Linda's house on Halloween after her party, and she's having an affair on her husband, and then the power goes off, and someone's in the house.
Was this a meditation on TVA's Christmas brownout set during Halloween?
I don't even know what that means.
You remember, like, did you all have this problem, like the brownouts on Christmas last year, where they were just like, oh, I know Davis wrote about it and was like, the power infrastructure is good, and then
dude, that was like literally the day before the brownouts. Like,
brownout.
Okay, whole thing.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, when they just like cycled off the power.
I was in Ohio.
Slides.
I was at my parents' house and that happened, and that I didn't have to suffer through that. So, but yeah, I like. Initially, the perpetrator was going to cut power to the house, but I felt like, I don't know, it more contemporary and convenient for me, just plot wise, if there was a rolling power outage just for like 15 minutes. Because we're getting a lot of that these days. So I just felt like, hey, I can use this to my advantage. And then when I was asking, I think my DP, like, is that like too far-fetched or does that happen? And then he just Googled like Nashville Metro electricity schedule. And there's a full list of when power outages go off. And it's like it's almost like 10 times a month. Like it's pretty regular. So yeah.
So this movie's really about Freddie O'Connell then.
Sure.
It's about
Yes.
the TVA.
It's about the TVA.
It's about it sounds like, it sounds like kind of a meta commentary on the TVA's efforts to have a more sustainable grid and kind of the, the risks that come along with that.
So I want to talk about the style of
Oh
the
yeah.
movie, because like I was blown away when I watched it. I know that I was impressed that you had the cut ready the day after you shot the thing and didn't take any time off. First of all, I just want to say that it was,
Thank you.
your energy is boundless. But what was it like? Because I think a lot of people that aren't in film don't understand how difficult it is to have either like the one long take sort of Birdman style, or what it takes to achieve that effect, even if it's not done. So was this done in one take, or did you have the effect of one take?
It's the effect of one take. There's a hidden cut there. I've thought about revealing where it is, but maybe you can find out when you watch it. But yeah, it's basically 2 long shots. It all started with the conversation of, can I do this in one take? Just one. Can we do it in one? And then in my mind, in the back of my mind, like, okay, maybe if I can't do that, we'll have to do a hidden cut somewhere. And then I watched a YouTube video of like 1979 where all the hidden cuts are, and that basically is pretty accurate of telling you which hidden cuts are where. And that gave me an idea of like, okay, you can do a hidden cut by doing this sort of thing. And I didn't want to do the typical like, and I'm not gonna crap on Alfred Hitchcock because he's the master, but I wasn't gonna do this from Rope and then do the next cut. Like I wasn't gonna do that, so I was just gonna find a different way to do it. But basically, when we got to location, we just talked it out, and we were talking about like how we can move the camera and the actors and just go through the scripts like painstakingly slow, and then just raising issues of what could possibly happen. And then we decided where our cut should go, because there's kind of like a second look for a character that I don't want to spoil, that we had to dress up for. So yeah, it was just a matter of like talking through the crew, like exactly what we're going to do. It was very methodical. It was very technical. It was the most technical thing I've ever done. And it was just kind of like a good exercise in just like honing the craft of like your crew and just kind of like being on the same page with every single person there. Because I don't think I could have done this without my crew, because everybody was just like, oh yeah, I want to do a oneer. That sounds like fun. And they made it happen.
Was it on a gimbal or a Steadicam, or I admittedly have not seen anything other than the trailer.
It's on a Steadicam. Yeah.
Yes. How many? I know you shot it in a day, but how many takes did you do?
Well, we rehearsed it Friday, so we shot Saturday night, but we rehearsed the entire thing Friday. Blocked everything out with the actors, and did kind of like a slow camera rehearsal Friday night. The first take, which is each last take was the one that we used. The first take was 8 takes, or the first shot was 8 takes. The second shot was 10 takes, because that one was the most, there's just a lot going on for the final climax of the movie. And there's just certain markers that my cameraman had to hit, my lighting guy had to hit, my actress had to hit, and then the other actor that had to hit too. So it was just kind of like really hard to nail that one, but we got it in the last 10th take. And I usually don't go past 3 or 4 normally. So this was kind of like, once you hit 10, you feel like you're not getting it right, or will get it right. But we got it right. So that was kind of nerve-wracking there.
And the long take thing is, it takes a lot to do that. But the fact that you are making a horror movie. I don't want to spoil anything, but horror movies have blood. They have effects.
Yeah.
Very similar. You mentioned 1917. That's not something you can just go back and reset very easily. So, I mean, how much did that
Yeah.
factor into the need to do that many takes?
Well, a lot of the violence is off camera, which I felt like this is way less gorier than my last one. But it's still kind of like, I don't know, there's blood in it for sure. But like, it didn't take too much. It didn't take nothing but like at most 5 minutes between each take. It was more just kind of like resetting costumes, because one actor has a Halloween costume on, and midway through the take, he's basically naked, just in his boxers. So like, it's just like the matter of him getting back into his costume, and he has a bandage that he's wrapped in, and he has to take it off. So there's just a little bit of like blood practical effects there, but it wasn't a large reset. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, and in terms of the release, it's available for 24 hours. What's sort of the motivation behind taking it? I mean, are you planning on doing a festival run with it, or
potentially a festival run? I think this will play well with the crowd, but I don't know in a festival circuit if it will play well. So there's a few options. I might take to like a YouTube channel. There's a few horror channels that have like over 1 million subscribers that I could submit it to. I might look into that, but I might go just the festival route next year. But the idea behind just like releasing it for a 24-hour window is just like the immediacy of trying to get your attention, and not just like throwing it out there and hoping someone watches it. I'm telling you, like, I'm releasing this. You have 24 hours. After 11:59 tomorrow night, or tonight. Sorry. Let me repeat that again. At 11:59 tonight, it's gone for a long time, and it won't be available publicly. So.
Yeah, and I love that. I was having a conversation. I went to go see Killers of the Flower Moon like way too late for a 3.5-hour movie, and was telling my friends that like I haven't seen The Irishman yet just because it's on Netflix, and I never really felt compelled to do it because it's always going to be there unless like, the system goes away or something like that, like Disney cutting stuff. So I really do appreciate that, even though this is like streaming and the internet, you're bringing that exclusivity back to it. That's great.
Yeah.
I miss the kind of ephemerality of that stuff, having to catch it in theaters or having to wait months until you got it on VHS. Kind of degrades the content that you can just get it whenever.
Yeah, I mean, Universal's doing that with Oppenheimer, I guess, because it's not, Barbie's already on DVD and Blu-ray and demand, and Oppenheimer's just kind of like waiting. So, I mean, I love that about the movie. The other thing I really love about it is the way you're calling back to Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which is one of my favorite Halloween movies. Actually, if you look at the Halloween 10 this week, the article we re-released, it's #1 of my favorite Halloween movies. But, as horror fans know, John Carpenter was kind of sick of Michael Myers after the second movie, wanted to basically do what you're doing here, or want to do, where every single year it's like a new Halloween story that sort of celebrates the holiday. So how much did John Carpenter influence this particular project? I mean, I know that's kind of like a softball for every filmmaker, but
yeah. I mean, I think I sent you like a still, and the day or the night after we shot, I was like, we nailed the Carpenter look. So obviously it is, I mean, he's all over the short, but one thing that is, so he is like kind of the blanket over the short, but Brian De Palma is another influence in this one, as far as like the sexual energy in this short, just kind of the infidelity of adult like material. Because one thing I didn't want to do is just have 3 Gen Zers in a house. I don't know. I just wanted this to be more adult, more relatable to people over 30, and just kind of like have that more intimate, tragic element once the ending is revealed. So it definitely has kind of like not like sleaze. It's not like a sleaze, but like De Palma had some sort of like classy element to his kind of more provocative material. And that's what I kind of wanted to put in this. So just kind of taking those two visions and filmmakers and clashing them together while still making it my own.
Yeah, now
Like,
that you mentioned,
so it's like
there's
the opening oneer and Blowout.
Yeah.
You know, I love that when he's trying to find the scream, the
Yeah.
perfect scream for that movie. That's just the way that movie ends cracks me up.
Yeah.
It's
you
a
also have
horrible,
that, like-
it's a horrific movie, but the way it ends with that him finding the perfect scream, it's just it's beyond parody, honestly.
Yeah.
the irony is wonderful there. And you've also got a lot of like the suburban stories of Dressed to Kill, which is not suburban, but is very much about the like relationship dynamics and failing marriages, or even like Raising Cain, which is one of my like favorite underrated 90s De Palmas. It's
a wild one.
Movie. So yeah, now that that was something I definitely can pick up on now. And even Halloween 3, you've got this like over 40s kind of alcoholic doctor protagonist. So it is nice to see movies that aren't just about Gen Zers being, ironic. I know that's one of the problems we have discussed with horror today is like nobody really wants to make that kind of serious horror movie. De Palma believed in these movies, even though they were sometimes over the top. And now there's just sort of this like, and it's not even like 90s cool irony. It's just this like meta garbage, right?
Yeah. I understand that like some horror movies need to cater to that teenage audience because they have the most expendable income. But I'd like to see a return to more adult themed, not even just horror movies, but just like thrillers in general. Dressed to Kill is great. Body Double is weird but awesome. Kind of just like a perverted version of Virgo. And it's just like you can kind of remake these Hitchcockian movies, but like put your own spin on it, and just because I don't think there's like a single teenager that was like the lead of like a Hitchcock movie. They're all like adults. It's all adult material. Psycho is a very adult situation to find yourself in, like being on the run and then being caught by the cops, the paranoia of like authority, just in that frame of that cop, and then just at a motel that you never been to, and you're kind of on the run from stealing money. It's just like returning to that sort of more mature content, or not even content, just storytelling. So
yeah, and I appreciate it. I also appreciate that the movie's 7 minutes. I mean, that's great for a short.
Yeah,
I know I'm happy to watch a long movie, but shorts especially, like you've got to time them. And this one is just so well paced as well. So I hope everybody is going to be able to check it out. Again, you've got at the airing of this about 10 hours to go check out this movie, and it is free, correct? Like, I mean, you just can watch it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you get this like kind of almost exclusive sneak preview of this movie that we don't know where it's going to end up, but I'm sure we'll be hearing about it again in the near future. So what are your other Halloween plans, Jay? You got anything else tonight you're doing?
I'm gonna try to find a poncho and a Western hat so I can be Clint Eastwood for this Halloween party. So that's just all I really need to figure out. I always like try to plan out my Halloween costumes, and then I don't do anything until the day of. So
hey, I played a cowboy Saturday night, and it went over pretty well. I didn't have the poncho, but I just had a paisley button-down shirt, cowboy hat, and cowboy boots, and
sweet,
works perfectly.
Cool.
I'm guessing it was for a Halloween party and not just for the heck of it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe not.
Sometimes I like to just get dressed up.
I don't blame you. So what are you up to tonight, Davis?
Nothing. After this, nothing.
No, what about plans. Halloween?
Oh, I forget. This is recording on Tuesday.
We are pre-recording. So
I don't know if I have any set plans yet. I'm not going to a Halloween party. I did that this weekend. That's all I got in me. One costume day a year. That's all I do.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I'm going as a steampunk whatever. We're doing it next week because I'm working. But
there was a guy as a steampunk whatever at the party that I went to Saturday. So
he probably also dropped way too much money at Spirit Halloween on manufactured stuff, just like I did. So it's
I saw someone talking about how like I have these neighbors next door to me who every year do more and more elaborate Halloween front yard things, and they don't decorate for any other holiday. Just I wish I could bring the camera out there to show you because it's pretty elaborate this year. They have like a full moon with like clouds, and they move the clouds depending on how cloudy it is outside. And they've
wow.
got this elaborate set pieces out there. This like mummy in a coffin, and this fortune teller, and all this stuff. Yeah, someone was saying that's a phenomenon allowed by cheap Chinese goods that you can get at the party store.
Yeah, I mean, there's an essay to be written about sort of like how Halloween has turned into this massive. I don't know if it's like recession, post Obama, kind of just like people wanting to like commune with evil on one particular night or what, but it is insane. And now you've got like a lot of HOAs. That's been the big story of this year that I've been hearing about, that HOAs are trying to rein in people's decoration because they're too creative. So maybe Jay can make a movie about horrific HOAs next.
Yeah, maybe.
Could be good.
Not a bad one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten all these like people that I know, like the HOA has emailed them and is like, your decorations are too much, or they're unchristian or something like that, and you must take them down. So all of that wonderful stuff, which is not related to Jay's movie, but might be related to a future endeavor from him. So Jay, I'm sure we'll be hearing from you soon. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day. And again, the movie is called Jack. It is streaming, and we will have the link available. I'll be retweeting Jay tomorrow and a lot of his promo for the movie, so you'll know where to find it.
Cool.
Yeah, have a great Halloween, y'all, and I will see you all on the other side of the holiday. All right, well, that is our Halloween special. So whatever you do on this Halloween evening, give it some thought. We'll be back on Friday with a brand new show. Have a great holiday.